time to close out the Constitution, the mystic Constitution of man, and we can move into Raja Yoga, so we can kind of connect the dots. Okay. Essentially, I guess we went over all of this, right? On the first page, this right here. We went over all of this. So, just to do a brief look at it, I'll go over it real quick. Spirit, which is a divine spark of God within us that is unmanifested and is always connected to the absolute. It creates the soul, which is the manifested part of the absolute. And this soul moves on to move through creation in this manifested state in order to gain experience. It becomes the body which holds the intelligence of the spirit. And the spirit, in a sense, you could say that the spirit, in the mystic or yogic terms, we say that the spirit is a divine spark, but that divine spark cannot be defined because it's a part of the absolute. And it cannot be manifested because why? It was forever there, right? But what it does in order to carry out the will of God, because creation was spoken into being, it creates a soul, and that soul becomes the I. The spirit is the I am, because it is and forever will be. It had no beginning and no end. So the soul becomes the I that moves through experience. But because the soul is actually the product of the spirit, the soul is totally aware of spirit. So it's totally aware of the absolute. It has this all knowledge that it shares with the absolute. So what happens is this soul must involve itself in order to gain experience, because at this point it doesn't need experience because it's totally aware of the absolute. So what it does, it moves out to further involve itself. So how does it involve itself? It creates this indestructible auric body that we always hear of, right? This auric body is the body that carries man's consciousness, or any consciousness, throughout many reincarnations for eons until we can gain the ability to go back to spirit. So let's say a Jesus is closer to going back to the spirit or to God than what we are. Sri Krishna is closer to going back to God than what we are. Buddha is closer to going back to God than what we are. So this auric body, this indestructible body that moves through creation for untold number of eons, gained the experience in a conscious state. Because remember, spirit and soul is above consciousness. They create consciousness. Okay? So, how do they create consciousness? By manipulating prana. Alright? Because prana is the life force of creation. It is the energy released in the word of the absolute. Okay? It is that energy that in all the Bibles, whether it's the Torah, the Holy Bible, the Venice, the Upanishads, any Bible you want to go to, you'll see that God spoke the word, and the word was God, and creation came about. So that word released this prana, or in Hindu and Buddhist, they call it Shakti, from Shiva, because the spirit is Shiva, or God. It releases this word. And in that word is the power, this absolute power that brings about everything. It brings about from the unmanifested endless potential. And the endless potential is the universe. Okay? Or the created universe. So from, yeah.
Shiva is unmanifested?
Yeah, Shiva is unmanifested.
And when Shiva is manifested, it becomes Shakti?
No, Shiva is unmanifested. Okay? Shiva is unmanifested. It's a misnomer that say that Shiva is manifested. But they only say that in order to help you understand things. Shiva is unmanifested.
But Shakti is an aspect of Shiva.
Yes.
But manifested.
It's manifested. Okay? So the auric body creates mental bodies. And the mental bodies, in simple terms, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind, right? Then the mental body begins to manipulate the pranas, or the Shakti power, which the Shakti power can be described as the 5 Mahabhutas. And we heard of the cosmic elements, the 5 Mahabhutas, which is what? Akasa, right? Vaya, Apas, right? Which is, in English terms, etheric sound or space, which is Akasa. Vaya is the prana or air, right? Apas is water, right? Tejas or Agni is fire or light, right? And Pravitis is solids or earth, okay? Then you have the 5 major pranas, right? Which are, of course, prana, right? Then you have apana, you have samana, which is the region which the prana is located in the solar plexus. Apana is in the base of the spine. You have Vyana, which is in the sex center chakra, and Udana, which is in the throat, head, arms, and legs. Those are the 5 major pranas. Then you have the 5 minor pranas, which is a resort of physical movement. You know, which is when you when sleepiness come over you. That's a form of one of the minor pranas. When you belch, that's minor pranas. When you use the bathroom, that's minor pranas. So you have this negative type pranas as far as the subtle pranas. Then you have the 360 tabic rays that radiate from the sun and is manipulated by the moon and the earth in order to bring about life, or the realms of existence here on this earth. The mental body manipulates those pranas in order to produce our environment so that we can gain experience. And it does that at the direction of the soul. Then you have the etheric bodies. The etheric bodies is the higher subtle bodies, which is brought about by the manipulation of the Tavic rays and prana, right, of the heart, throat, and Christ, or Anga, chakra, or third eye, right? That's where the etheric body is manipulated from those energies. The after body is manipulated from the energies, from the Tavic energies and pranic energies, from the solar plexus down to the base. Okay? Then you have the physical body, the body that all of us see right now. All the other bodies that I just spoke about are the subtle bodies within you, which are this subtle operation behind your physical existence. The physical body is you have the sense organs. And we talked about the sense organs, didn't we? Some time ago. And these sense organs have three states that they operate out of. And in Sanskrit terms, they're called, everybody remember this, right? Right? Which are states of minds or quality of mind energy in operation. Okay? And the first one is Tamas, right? The second one is Rajas, right? And the third one is the Sattva, right? Sometimes they use it, put an A on the end. These are the states of mind or states of operation that those energies, those subtle and physical energies operate out of. Of course, the first two major chakras, the base and the sex center, work mainly on the Dhammas, right? Type states of mind. The solar plexus and the heart are the Rajas, right? And the Sattvic is the higher chakras, okay? The Dhammas is a dark and earth type mental energy that produce this subtle and physical energy that usually is associated with what's called painful. Did I ever go over this with you all? Huh? You sure? I'm positive I did.
Remember you describing Verities as painful?
Painful verities. Okay? The painful verities is a combination of Tamas and Rajas. Okay? So that's part of the physical existence. Okay? In the physical, also the sense organs are your fingers, of course your head, your brain, your nose, your eyes, your mouth, your tongue, your touch, the touch on your skin, your genital organs, your anus, your feet, your toes. All these are sense organs. And this is how you connect with the physical world. Okay? The subtle energy within you connect to the physical world through these sense organs. All right? Now, of course, it's regulated through conscious mind, subconscious mind, and superconscious mind. Okay? And you have 10 physical senses, and you have 10 aster senses, which are senses of desire or emotion, right? On this physical level, that's how it appears. On the master level, it may not necessarily appear like that. Okay? Some people claim that you have 11 senses. I'm going by the ancient teachings. The chakra system and the Nadic system. The chakra system, you have 108 chakras within the body. Okay? These 108 chakras work through the sense organs. Okay? You have 242,000 nadis, Nadi pathways within the subtle bodies, which is the auric bodies, the mental bodies, the energy bodies, the etheric bodies, and the astral body, which is all one body, but we break it up so that you can understand it. All right? These 242,000 Nadic pathways is the subtle pathways that the energy flow, this subtle energy flow within the body. It carries all the different mahabhutas, the pranas, the minor pranas, the tavic rays, and the kundalini. Okay, the concentrated kundalini that's at least between 2 to 5 or 10% through the body. All right. Of course, you have a physical, mental type aura on the physical plane that's around the body. People who are psychic, the first layer that they usually see around the body is a squiggly white glow around the body. You'll see from time to time. And as your psychic sight become more developed, you'll begin to notice that the white is not white, it's gray. And then from the gray, you'll notice the different colors come in and out, going in and out of the different major chakras and some minor chakras. Okay, that's the physical body. All right? Now, how does all this connect? This is one of the ways it connects. When we go, that's why at this point it's good to shift to Raja Yoga. Because once you begin to understand this, you can begin to understand Raja Yoga. There's two major ways of developing yourself, right? And all the ways fit into this, right? And one is through Nadi yoga, and the other one is through control of what? Anyone? Anyone knows?
Control of mind.
Who said it?
Control of mind.
Who said control of what? Prime. Not the mind. Okay? You can't control the mind unless you control prime. Unless you have the knowledge to control the mind, to be able to control prime. These are the two major ways of spiritual development. All right? These are the two major ways. You can break it up, you can come back, you'll always come back to these two ways. This is what Raja Yoga is about. All right? Because you control the mind through giving the mind what? Anyone knows? Huh?
Giving the mind.
What?
The right knowledge.
Right knowledge. Because what happens then? When you have the right knowledge of something, what do?
You put it into action.
Put it into action. Because why? If you know that fire burns, you're going to do what? You're not going to touch the fire. And you're going to come up with ways to do what? Manipulate the fire without doing what? Touching the fire without burning yourself. So the right knowledge mold and shape your mental and physical actions. That's what it does. False knowledge usually leads you to do something that brings about painful virities. For you all who don't know what virities are the modifications of the aura. You know, let's say you walk into a room and you have a certain feeling come over you, right? Because why? Because you have different modifications. That room may open up certain samskaras, certain mental impressions embedded within your aura. A song may bring back certain memories and certain feelings, right? So then, therefore, what do? You begin to thrive on those samskaras, those impressions, and then you begin to act on it. You give it the power to come alive back in your life again, whether it was good or bad. And if it was painful for Ritis, then and you give that seed or that samskara life again, you begin to feel the what? Cause and effect of that. Right? Because everything has a cause and effect to it. You create an action, a reaction is given. Okay?
So then, so
Yeah.
the objective here would be then to just kind of stay in the presence with in the present time, with everything you're doing?
No, not necessarily, but what is the thing is to use, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, right? What do we do with this? What do we do with this? Anybody remember what I said?
We'll try to apply it to every aspect of our lives.
You try to apply a Savic type energy or frame of mind to everything you do, because the Savic type mind can control this, right? And usually the Savic type mind is this. It's right knowledge. Yeah.
The Savic type of mind can't control Thomas?
No, it controls this. It controls. That's the only way you can control it. And that's why this is the number one way of life, to gain the knowledge from those with wisdom and knowledge. The Nadi Yoga means wisdom. It means making union with God through knowledge and wisdom, right? And you take that knowledge and wisdom and you mold it to your life. So you begin to do what? You begin to follow the 8 limbs of what? Of yoga, which is what? I wrote it down for you.
Yeah.
Yama, Asana, Pranayama.
Yeah, but let's say the English, so that everyone. Restraint, right?
The moral code.
Or control, right? You adopt a what, you said?
The moral code.
A moral code to your life. You adopt a moral code to your life. And that begins to shape your life. And if you adopt a moral code to your life, then you bring into what? You bring all your mental thoughts and actions into a Savic level of thinking, right? So you begin to weed out this thymus and rajas, or the painful virities. See? Because why? The reason why when you sit down to try to concentrate on something and your mind go crazy and you can't focus your mind is because of the modifications, right? And Patanjali, of the Sutras of Patanjali, tell us what? Tell us that in order to concentrate, you must do what? Stop the modifications. The modifications are really the painful virities within your aura, within your mind. It has your mind jumping, grasshopping thoughts and whatever. But if you center your mind, and the only way you center your mind is with right knowledge, and you move away, you bring about a moral code of your life, right? You dismiss false knowledge through right knowledge and discrimination, and you predetermine all your actions. And by doing that, you begin to live a Savic life. And the modifications will slowly disappear. And the only modifications you will have is the Savic modifications, right? And when these modifications come up, because you can harness this type of power so quickly, you can always push them out when they do come back, because they will come back. But you have gained so much control over this that you can always clear your mind and focus your thoughts down one pathway and bring about concentration, which leads to contemplation and eventually meditation. All right, so that's, this is the pathway. You must have this in order to bring about the control of prana. You cannot do it the other way. Yeah.
Could you make an environment, like a room, stop it?
Well, in the yoga pathway, that's one of the things they tell you to do. You take a room or a corner. If you're not fortunate enough to have a whole room, you take a corner and you make that corner a holy place, in other words. We want to use the word holy, where you allow nothing to enter that area, and you allow no activity to go in that particular area except for spiritual type things, maybe prayer, meditation, and all good actions, all right actions to happen in that space, so that when you enter that space, you can bring about a higher level of concentration than normal. All right, but even you must respect that place. You shouldn't go in there without going through some type of ritual. Okay, in other words, like having a certain type of clothes, washing yourself down, blessing it before you walk in or whatever. Those things you must do in order to keep it right. Remember I showed you a film a couple of years ago, I think was that Berkeley University? Where they was doing the healing tests?
I think it was.
Yeah, and where they realized that they took that tissue culture out and they was radiating this subtle energy to that tissue, and they noticed that the room was dirty, that the energy didn't flow well, so they had to clean the room, and then they had a quicker response. It's the same thing with your yoga practice, which is something that's written in ancient books hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago. You must clean a particular area before you go in there to do your practices. So this brings us to, everyone understand this, right? So far? Okay. So in order to bring about to kill out painful virities, you must use a sattvic virities in order to kill out, in order to take out the painful virities, and that's by the first first two limbs of yoga. All right, and then from there you can move on to controlling this, and it's all done with Nadi yoga. And that's why so many times ago I told you, I said Nadi yoga is first. Remember I kept telling you that's why Nadi yoga is first, because there's two major ways, there's two spiritual pathways, and that's through Nadi yoga and through the control of prana. Control of prana is control of subtle energies within the body. All right? So there's a thing called karma yoga, right? And karma yoga is what? What is karma yoga?
Right action.
Huh?
The yoga of right action.
The yoga of right action, right? And the right action is the only way you can bring about or practice karma yoga is through understanding what the right action is, through knowledge and wisdom, right? And then you move to control prana. You move to control prana. One of the ways you control prana is through what? What's an effective way for us right now?
Breathing techniques.
Breathing, pranayama, right? So one is pranayama, right? What's another way?
Diet.
Yeah, diet. What's another way?
Mantra.
Mantra. Mantra japa. Right? What's another way?
Hatha yoga. Hatha.
Hatha, yeah.
Awesome.
What's another way?
Rest. Like rest, not over 30 years.
Yeah, rest. That's a form of hatha yoga, really, though. Yeah, relaxation is a form of hatha yoga. Prayer or bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga. Prayer or bhakti yoga. What's another way?
Concentration.
That'll be Raja yoga. So in other words, all yogas have Nadi and the control of yoga, the control of prana, which is the control of prana is what? What's the control of prana?
Pranayama.
Pranayama. The first one we mentioned. That's the control of prana. So in all yogas, you have Nadi yoga and pranayama within it. You cannot have a yoga without having those two in it, because it's impossible. Because all yoga came from Nadi yoga, right? In fact, you cannot, and you can put a third one on. You can put a third on to this, which is karma yoga, because Nadi yoga and the control of prana produce action, which is karma yoga, because karma yoga is a yoga of action. All right, so you cannot have yoga without those three in it. So the 8 limbs of yoga is restraint, number 1, which is yama, where you develop some moral code, right? And you have yama, you have niyama, which is the observance of religious practice, which cultivates quality of higher nature within you, and that's harnessing the sovic power that I talked about. All right? Because all manifested material falls under this right here. Okay? And these are only the states of mind that it operates from. Now, of course, within everything, you have all three of them. But depending on the state it's in, one is in more operation than the other. And one of the things we must do in controlling ourselves is to bring about a more sovic balance. Because what are we taught? We're taught, you have a erase for it. What are we taught? We're taught that in the Tantra Satra, mantra chakra, and chakra only means knowledge. And tantra is knowledge that is loomed together. When you say tantra chakra, we're taught that from the crown chakra, right, of man, which represents the Shiva state, right, of the soul, comes all the other chakras, all right? The so-called third eye or Christ chakra, right? The throat chakra, the heart chakra, the solar plexus, and the sex and base. Now, as these chakras came from the higher chakras, our existence became possible. Okay, but the more it went down, the grosser it became. In other words, so Thamas, and the darker it became. The further we fell from the light or the knowledge and the wisdom, we fell into a level or existence of false knowledge. Okay? False knowledge, because why? False knowledge does what? It disturbs our cognition. In other words. Now, one of the things that science try to do outside of the yoga practices, although science is a form of yoga, in my opinion, because yoga only means union with God. That's all it really means. So what happens is that scientists try to battle through things in order to find the secrets of it, to find the makeup of it. So what are they looking for? The science is looking for the same thing we're looking for, the right knowledge, so that what? So that their cognitive abilities can see things. Thousands of years ago, the yogis said that this world is an illusion. When you see something, you necessarily don't see the real thing. Of course, today scientists have proven that. Scientists know that we only see one or two spectrums of the electromagnetic spectrum that radiates from the sun. Now, with special lenses, telescopes, microscopes, we can begin to see those things that we cannot see. We cannot see the thousands of germs and bacteria that's bombarding our body right now, or the thousands of photon, different degrees of photons that are bombarding our body. And we cannot see or hear all the different syllables of sound that's bombarding us right now. The light, the electronic magnetic spectrum is radiating through our bodies right now. It's radiating through our bodies right now. And we can't see it. We know that radio waves and television waves are streaming through this open space, but we cannot see it. Now, of course, the yogis said this thousands of years ago. That is true. There's an auric body around us. The yogis and the mystics around the world said that for thousands of years. Of course, at the turn of the century, man was able to film it. They was able to film the aura. The aura exists, and there's many, many layers of the aura. So our perception our perception received by our eyes, our smell, our hearing, even our taste and touch is done in a way to create this thing called false knowledge. And this is the thing that actually hurt us and creates this thing called painful riches. Okay? And it seemed like a lot of knowledge and a lot of teachings are based on that. If I can't see it, I can't touch it, it doesn't exist. That's what most people say. Even when they go out into space and look for other life, if it's not a carbon-based type of life, it doesn't exist. If there's no water there, it doesn't exist. Although here in our planet we have all type of life forms that doesn't necessarily function the way we function. That they can breathe oxygen underwater, right? They can produce light from their body. They don't need to be out in the sunlight. They can produce light from their body. I mean, it's so many different things that we can look at. But if we rely totally on our five senses, then we come up with false knowledge. All right? Because why? There's a huge illusion within the cognitive senses because of the level that we're on. So Raja Yoga is about developing the 6 organs in order to use all 10 senses. That's what it's about. So that the knowledge the cognitive information that you pick up is more right than false, right? And then it's also taught in Raja Yoga to bring about a level of discrimination, okay? So that's what Raja Yoga is all about. It's all about developing the mental faculties or the mental power. It's about developing the mental power within you, so that your cognitive abilities will increase, and by increasing, you can bring about right knowledge instead of false knowledge. Because the minute you sensitize the body enough, where you begin to merge the physical senses with your astral senses, and you can see the aura of someone, and you can see the dozens and dozens of people who have came to this room to hear this lecture today on the other realms, then you would know that your physical eyes, your natural physical eyes, is not telling you the truth. And you would know that you need to dig a little deeper. See? And you would know to just rely on the physical senses, you would not arrive at right knowledge, right, or true knowledge. You will be working on false knowledge, and all your calculations going forward using that knowledge will give you the wrong results. And this is what Raja Yoga is about. Raja Yoga is a development of mental powers. Okay? This is what Raja Yoga is. And this is done by sensitizing the senses the cognitive senses within the body in order to develop not only your 5 senses, but the total 10 senses at your disposal, the sense organs. And this is done through a series of mental practices and pranayama, visualization, Bhakti yoga, Nadi yoga, some cry yoga later on is done through all those methods. Okay, so this is where I want to take the class next. And by doing this, you'll begin to see there's a vast knowledge of Raja Yoga in order to control the mind. And if you do the practices that I will give out as we move on, you'll begin to sensitize yourself to a point where you begin to see psychically, hear psychically, you'll begin to smell psychically, you'll begin to touch, you'll begin to develop psychometry, astral projection. All these things will begin to happen naturally to you, okay, through the practice of Raja Yoga. Okay, now, much question here. Yeah, I think it was Sivananda who said there's many yogis that can perform all type of feats of all type of so-called magical psychic feats, but they lack the ability to communicate anything significant. It is the yogi who can do that and refuse to do it, but give out Nadi yoga. It's a yogi who helps the world. So as you develop these abilities, you develop them to learn. You go through the motion. You develop them to learn and to sensitize your body so that you can get to, and let's put here, true knowledge. Okay? So that you can do what? You can serve humanity. You don't do it to get the lotto.
Exactly what I was thinking.
No, you don't do it. The only thing you'll do is bring about painful riches. Okay? So you do it to serve humanity. You develop these abilities to a point where you don't have to use them, but to gain greater knowledge and greater wisdom, so that you can do what? So that you can teach the world.
So even if your intention with the lottery is to help humanity, like to build shelters and things like that, it's still selfish, I guess?
There's many other ways to do it than going gambling. I mean, it's up to you. If you think you can handle that karma. But I'm telling you, there's a lot connected to it. It's good to fight for your rights, right? It's always good to stand up and fight for your rights. But is it necessarily good to join an organization that have a 300-year history of fighting for your rights, unless you examine that 300-year history? Because the minute you sign your name to that, you take on the karma of that organization.
For whatever amount of years
So let's say if the lottery system been around for 50 years and it did good for those 50 years, and you can measure the good far outnumber the bad. I mean, by hundreds or thousands of times. Then maybe you can gamble like that. But let's say when you really examine the lottery system and it didn't do what it's supposed, what it's set out to be, you just sign your name to that, and your karma is connected to that. So you follow, you have grouped your consciousness with a group of people who have used that to hurt more people than helping people. So that's, that's just a level of discrimination with the knowledge, with the right knowledge. Okay?
Is it the same thing like when you apply for a job that you go?
Anything, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, it's only, doesn't that make sense? Isn't that common sense? Is this common sense? You join an organization and that organization have a shady path, a shady history, and have did a lot of harm to people, then you just connected your karmic pathway to all those people who made up that thing. Okay?
The
Military, all the military branches. If you join that, then you just connected yourself to them. Maybe for the next 10 lifetimes until you can break away. Maybe 100 lifetimes. So you have to be careful about what you join. Yeah.
You either have to break away from them or change them.
Yeah. So that's a problem. All right. Any other questions? Because we're gonna, I think it's getting kind of late. We're gonna close out. Any other questions? We'll go more into this next week. We'll go into the karmic aspect of it, okay? And the practices, and the various practices of it. All right? Do y'all have any questions on what I gave out today? Okay, then we can close out. Oh, bring your paperwork back next week. I have some more stuff, but we'll get more into the mind and the practices of it.